is Cara Helene. I'm a holistic medicine woman, and I do a range of things, including Chinese medicine, astrology, herbalism, all the things, because wellness is not a single thing, as most of us in this room, from what I heard, already know. So I think that's wonderful. What a lot of us don't realize when we get into being entrepreneurs, or soulpreneurs, as I call it, is that if we worked for someone else for most of our lives and we jump into working for ourselves, suddenly things go wacky because we don't realize that, oh, we can't take hustle culture and traditional Western approaches to business and capitalism and apply them in a new way of being, which is what most of us are trying to do. And we forget that. And so we get burnt out, we get overwhelmed, we get all kinds of things. And so what I'm introducing today is looking at how trees are the masters of regeneration for a reason. And so we're going to look at their regenerative cycles, and we're going to apply that to the business cycle for creation and productivity. So I know that sounds like kind of boring, but I promise it's not. My 11-year-old helped me make the slides, so she was very excited. So, we look at trees and we're like, my God, they can live thousands of years. They never get burnt out, right? They never get overwhelmed. Why is that? It's because they have seasons, right? We're in the season of winter right now. And so we start to understand that truly sustainable productivity means that we can keep going for long periods of time. But it doesn't mean that the activity we're doing is always the same, right? In winter, we may be resting, which looks very different than summer when we're out there, out and about and big and loud in the world. And so when we start to think about trees are also not just individuals. They are in collaborative networks through their root systems, through the mycelial network. And so all those collections of collaboration that we don't see, that are unseen to us below the earth, are also making life possible for them to create our air, the structures that make up our homes, right? The shelter and the shade that we need when it's hot out. And this is something that we all can start to embody the same sense of energy, so that burnout, analysis paralysis, right? Stagnation, overwhelm, these sorts of things don't start to take over in our business too. And it can be personal, but it can also be professional. So right now we're in the season of winter. So we're going to start with that. And we think of winter, right? So right now, I'm going to invite you, if it feels safe to you, close your eyes for a moment. And feel your sit bones in the chair, right? Those are kind of your roots. Feel your feet where they're making contact with the floor. And breathe just gently in whatever way feels good. You don't have to force it. And now imagine where you're making contact with the earth, you have roots spreading down in, pushing between the soil, the rocks, the floor of this very lovely building we're in, all of it. And you start to dig down and down into the earth. And eventually it starts to feel warm. And you start to find the very heart of Mother Earth. And she welcomes you. She says, thank you for connecting with me. Thank you. What is it that I can do to support you? And allow whatever that is, allow that to come back up through those roots for you right now. Maybe it's stability. Maybe it's nourishment. Maybe it's quiet and stillness. Could be any of those things. Maybe it's a little bit of inspiration today. But allow that to come up, back up through your feet, your knees, and your body, and up into your heart. Now, this is what trees feel like in winter. They're connecting with each other. They're deepening their roots, right? This is a very different image than we may be like, oh, trees are dead in winter. They're doing nothing. Oh, hell no. They are digging roots. They are making connections. They are saving resources so that they know exactly when to come forth in spring at the right time and place. And you can do that too. So winter is the season of rest, is what I call it. But it's not just rest from a space of sleep. It's rest of a space of reconnecting in what is the wisdom of your body. What is your body asking for? Maybe it's gentle movement. Maybe it's nourishment. Maybe it's soul connection and quiet. But it can be all of those things, but it's the things that nourish you as an individual. It's not about outcome. It's not about others, which can feel really hard in the holiday season. But so think about those opportunities for rest, which truly nourish you at a very soul core level of who you are. Now, if we move next into spring, think about if you were that tree again and the ground is starting to warm, you're feeling your sap starting to rise up through your body. Maybe feeling it if you were to stretch your arms up towards the sky. Maybe you feel like your fingertips, leaves want to come out of your fingertips. And you start to say, oh, that's sunlight. That feels beautiful. That feels amazing, right? You're starting to feel like you're ready to open and flower, like you're ready to connect with others, right? So we think of spring as this time of connection. It's a time when the flowers are cross-pollinating, when the trees are communicating in a way that we as humans may not fully understand, but that's the starts of the seeds of life for what's going to come in summer, right? Summer is that time of full fruitness, the time of the fullness of fireflies and rain and so much sunshine. We don't even know what to do with it all. And everything just feels very abundant and fertile and lovely and supportive. We can be in that space too, right? But if we live in that space of summer all the time, which is what we call hustle culture, that's where burnout comes from. And so we have to be mindful. Abundance is beautiful, but abundance all the time means eventually we overgive. And so we have to be mindful. So next we move into autumn. Autumn, right? So if you're that tree again, you're like, you know what? I think I'm done with these leaves. They serve their purpose. You start to shake them off and you let go of the ones that aren't serving you anymore, because you recognize that when you let go of them, they're creating space for rest. They're also creating a bedding around your roots, keeping you warm, creating nourishment for when you're ready to sprout forth again in the spring. They have purpose. They're also creating habitat for all the other insects and animals that you're in relationship with, nourishing that mycelial network, right? So you think of all of these different ways that the energy is flowing and moving in these systems. And this isn't just trees. This is how all of life works. And we can do this too, but we've forgotten. So if you want to open your eyes. So the regenerative business cycle is this. How do we start to map these seasons of life and how energy moves to our businesses and our own personal ways of being? And these cycles aren't just like you have to do them every 3 months, right? It's not just that. You could do these in a day. You could do these in an hour. You could do these over the course of a week. It just depends. So it's a fluid movement of energy. And so we're going to start in winter because that's where we are. And so we talk about, if we're in the wintering part of our business right now, I invite you, you all are here doing something that to me is a winter activity because you're starting to network in a way that is nourishing for you, right? You're coming here because you're like, oh, I am surrounded by other heart-centered, like-hearted, entrepreneurial people who are doing really cool things to make the world a better place. And that is going to be really fertile ground for you to plant seeds in come spring. So it's not just resting. And don't get me wrong, especially for you, like astrology can play into this to help you diagnose who you are most likely to be. So if you're a fire sign, I know rest can be like, oh God, I hate winter. Please don't make me do this. That's okay. Your rest may look different. Your rest may be like, I'm walking my dogs. So it doesn't just mean stillness. Sometimes the stillness is the stillness within yourself. Being still enough to hear your body's wisdom to say, hey, I really want to go to that meeting today. Or, hey, I feel like I'm coming down with something. I should not go to that meeting today. Those are the little intuitive cues that we miss when we don't take time to rest. So in spring, we move into connection. And connection can feel like this really fertile place, right? It's really easy to get excited and we're networking, but it's also a space where we want to cultivate our intuition and our vision so that all the energy you're putting into connection is going somewhere that is going to serve your business and serve you as a practitioner. So you want to make sure, right? I could go to, I could go to a corporate networking event today and be like, yeah, this will be great. No, that is the worst investment of my time possible. We're not speaking the same language. So I get really clear on my intuitive and my vision about like, how are the kind of people I want to surround myself with? Who do I want to be working with? And then I pick my choices from there. So I'm planting my seeds in ground that is already receptive to what I'm doing versus if I'm just throwing seeds everywhere all the time, that is exhausting. That's how we end up with feeling like not just burnout, but we feel overwhelmed. There is no clear path forward. So I think cross-pollination, right? That's what I always think of is like all the bees and the flowers talking in spring. And that's where we're in that space right now. We're getting ready to step into spring with having the courage to step out and say hello to someone new, to try something new. And those are planting little seeds because you never know what they're going to grow into, but you just keep saying yes in the next right thing in your intuitive sense and your body wisdom that aligns. And then we get into summer. Summer, right? Feels amazing, right? If you think about the fullness of summer and how we want to be out in the sunshine and eat the right fruit and go to the farm and pick the fresh vegetables. Like it feels like unending abundance, and it's amazing. However, if we haven't planted the seeds and we haven't rested, nothing will come forward in spring. So each season is dependent on the one before it. And so in summer, we think about hustle culture is like, be consistent, take action, right? Keep doing the things, create more content. Not for you guys. You're soulpreneurs. That doesn't work for you. I hate to be the one to break that to you. Some of you, it may work. If you've got a lot of fire in your chart, you can probably keep up with that for a while. But eventually, it won't. What you have to be able to figure out is, what is your inspired action to take? And it's likely going to be the thing other people are going to be like, you're going to do that. And you're like, I don't know why, but it feels right. I'm doing this thing. I'm so excited. That's the way you want to choose from. You don't want to choose from the, well, today is supposed to be my social media day, so I'm supposed to make 4 posts and then do a live video. Like, no, that's the energy of no. Like, you're not getting anything out of that. So think about it, right? Like, feel the embodiment of the energy that you're in when you're in that space of wanting to create. And sometimes you're going to have to find a way to get yourself into that space. And this is a season of fire, so it's all about our joy and our self-expression. So if you are getting ready to do something that feels like you're doing it by someone else's rules, you're in the wrong space. What is you? What is the very specific way that you do it, that only you would do it, and do it that way? Because that's going to light your fire, and other people are like, whoa, I don't know what they've got, but I want to experience more of that. That's what brings people in, not just following someone else's rhythm. So then we go, after this is where we tend to forget in hustle culture. We get stuck here in the create mode. And we forget, sometimes you have to take a step back. Sometimes you have to go, okay, just did a lot of stuff. What worked? Celebrate the hell out of that. Yes, that landed. That was amazing. I'm so glad I did that. What did not work? Okay, I'm going to not invest in that again. For I see what I did, and I see what I can do a little bit this time, right? We start shooting leaves that didn't quite nourish us, and we let go of those. We don't hold on to them. You don't need to cling to them. Or maybe it would be clients. Maybe like, I feel like I'm outgrowing working with this type of client. Maybe this isn't what I want to do anymore. And that's okay, because it creates space for something new. If we don't create the space, nothing can come in for us. It's important to remember that. And I think that you remember this is a cycle. It's a rhythm. And some of these are going to feel longer than others. Some elements will be more. You may spend more time in create, less in reflect, or more in rest. And again, you can look at your Chinese medicine elements and your astrology, and you'll start to understand where you're going to have some of those places where you're going to be a little more tender, or where it might be a space you avoid because it's not as comfortable. So we're going to have a share your neighbor moment. So you introduce yourselves each other earlier, turn to your neighbor. Now, of the 4 cycles, which comes most naturally to you? Do you notice there's just one that without trying, you're just in that all the time? The one that you skip, that you're like, oh, I don't really like that one. I'm going to step out of it. Okay, so you got about 2 minutes. Turn to each other and go. All right, so this is the other part. This makes you a little more down. As a practitioner, if you could come to me and be like, I got some stuff going on, and I'd be like, all right, let's have a conversation and see what that's all about. And so this is to help you start to notice, like, oh, am I getting stuck in one of these? Because if energy isn't flowing in our business and in our personal lives, money won't flow, collaboration won't flow, our health won't flow. Stuck shows up everywhere. So stuck is really important to know. So you figure out where you're stuck. So you start to know what you can do to get unstuck. And if we start first in winter, getting stuck in that season of rest can look like that stagnant hermit. And someone was like, I'm in hermit mode right now. And I was like, oh, we're going to talk about that. So hermit mode, right, is sometimes you met that person who is like, but I just really love, I've got this routine. I have this, I love her work. But she is always housebound at this point. Like, she is so attached to her family and her routine, she won't get out and do her work. And I'm watching her business and just struggle. She's amazing in person. She does amazing work with horses. I freaking love her, but I cannot get her out of her house. And so that's where she is stuck with. And so think about it, it sounds like someone is saying, like, I'm really stuck. I'm really comfortable in this place. As an entrepreneur, being too comfortable is not going to serve you. It's just not. And so you got to know when you need to start moving again. You may also find that that person avoids meeting new people and trying new things. That's something else to think about. If you start feeling like, oh, I don't really want to take in new people. Okay, that's good. Sometimes we need that, right? For like a week or two. And then you got to start moving and getting out there again, because it's part of being an entrepreneur. The lifeblood of your business is connection. And people will say that it's marketing, and it's not. That's bullshit. You need to be connected with other human beings, even if it's just for you personally to support you. It makes a huge difference when you feel connected versus alone and isolated. Now, we just talked about the connection, the importance of it. Sometimes if you have a lot of in the energy of who you are, connection can you feel like you're in over your head because your boundaries are not good. So you're taking in everyone else's needs and expectations around you, and you're trying to meet everyone else's needs rather than thinking about what do you need and what does your business need and how do you want to connect right now. And so that'll be like the sense of overwhelm that you feel like, I just can't choose a path forward. There's too many things that I could see and do. My vision is emotionally attached to a person or a outcome or a thing. Like it has to look this certain way. And you're preventing spirit from coming in and supporting you in ways you can't. And so for two attached to that outcome or person, we may not realize the spirit here being like, oh, we're here. There's a super cool thing over here. And you're like, no, nope, it's got to be over here. Right. And that's another way that we get stuck. We kind of pigeonhole ourselves into a space of feeling caught in all of our emotional feelings in a whirlpool. That's what overwhelm really is. All right. So create. This is the person who is like amazing, right? They're on it until you start to notice they're dropping the ball on things. You're like, yeah, you're still really great at things, but you totally forgot that thing. Like, what happened? They're like, oh my God, I totally forgot you. I'm so sorry. I did this to a friend yesterday. It's the middle, finished my slides. I got music cranking. I'm feeling amazing. My friend in the UK texted me 8 times. Are you okay? Weren't we supposed to be talking right now? And I was like, fuck. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh, I looked out. I just popped myself in overcreating mode. I was like, oh. So it'll get to a point where you'll start to feel resentful. You'll start to feel bitter because the fire has overburned you. You're just burned down to coals. And so that's what we start to need to think about. Am I exhausted because I'm pushing something to happen? Am I overacting, like forcing something to come into being faster than it wants to come into being or faster than someone else wants it to come into being? And so that's how that fire, it'll burn you back. And that's why we call it getting burned out. And this is one of my favorites because this is why I hate doing slideshows, is I get stuck in this one, analysis paralysis. So when the mind gets overly engaged in things and all that air is kind of coming up, we're in that space of, I don't know enough yet, or it's not perfect enough. I'm not speaking it correctly, right? That perfection mode kicks in. And we just get halted there. Our brain just like clamps down on us. And we may also feel scattered because we're trying to hold too many pieces of information at once. We want to know all the things so that we don't make a mistake. We want to know all the things so that we don't forget something or forget someone. And that worry and that swirl of thinking will keep all your energy up here. And so you may even feel cold in your body. You may feel that like you don't notice there's pain until you sit down and slow down and check in. So there's all these kind of different ways that your body somatically will tell you where you are. But you can also start to pay attention, whether it's yourself, whether it's a coworker, a collaborator, whether it's a loved one, you can notice these things with them too. So another share with your neighbor. You got 2 minutes. Where do you get stuck? Okay. I hope you learned something new about yourself again. Now, this time, I am curious if you're willing to share out with the group, just a couple, we don't need a bunch, but do you hyper-focus in one of these elements? And do you hyper-focus there because you love it or because you feel like you have to? Oh, if you can tell, I'm not a fan of hustle culture, so I tend to pick on it a lot. Anyone feeling brave enough to share?
So I find lately for me, I'm shifting from doing things because I think I should do them to something a little more deeper and organic. It's like, what's this next thing that my body's wanting to do? What's this next thing that is mine to do from a deeper place? So I'm excited about that, and I feel like 2026 is going to be more of that.
Yes. Beautiful. All right. Do we have one last one? Ashley? But with love.
I was going to put it on like a little bit of a twist of how important relationships and partnerships are in this space. And I'm going to use us as an example, if that's okay. Because you kind of reference that, like you don't love the hustle bustle. And I just like embody the opposite of that, right? Like I'm an Aries, I'm a fire sign. Like you're going to see me go, go, go with high fire and high passion all the time because it just comes really natural. And so our friendship is really great because with intention and like you really help me rest, you really help me reflect, you help me rejuvenate myself. And then same thing, like in return, I help sometimes
You
like
motivate
a little
me.
fire.
Yeah.
So sometimes this can be a beautiful way to play on each other's strengths too, so that you can help empower and work together and kind of like self-regulate.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. That was like the perfect lead in. You didn't plan it, but it's perfect. So thank you. I appreciate everyone's willingness and courage to share in front of a group of people. Years. But I think that this is how we start to learn to work better together, when we start to understand how energy moves and how energy shifts. Because a lot of times if we're collaborating, which a lot of initially months ago came here because we're like, hey, I want other people to collaborate with. And it's really important, like we can all come together and be like, oh, I love what you do. But we may not fully appreciate that the way we work together may not work well. And so we have to start to be honest about that and have a language about that. And so like Ashley was just saying, like we figured out that was like, I know if I need a little fire under my butt for something that I can give Ashley a call and she is there. And that's what I need. And she's like, I need a grounding moment. Can I call you? And I'm like, sure. Right. But if I go to her and I expect her to be like slow and quiet with me, I'm expecting something from her that's not fair. That's not the beauty and wonder of who she is. So this is the next version of this class, is starting to teach about how we use this type of flow and cycle and energy in our collaborations, so that we start to understand how do we put collaborations together that are going to be successful rather than implode. Because I think we probably have all been there at this point where you're like, oh, it started out amazing. And then it wasn't the content of what you were doing that fell apart. It was the relationships that fell apart and how you showed up or not for each other. And so I wanted to create more of a language for people to use so that we can start to have open conversations. Be like, hey, your fieriness, I need some of that. But right now I don't. Can you show up for me like this right now? And they can be like, yeah, or no, I don't have that today. Right? Because that's what more honest conversation is, how we make more effective collaboration and community. But this is my practice. I also do private sessions, local gatherings and classes. Sunday, I'm teaching my dirt church down at the Ruby Ranch in Candler. And I'm launching a connection community, the Regeneration Hearth, and I'm also starting my regenerative living podcast, which will be featuring local folks in the community as well as folks from around the world who are soulpreneurs, who are building the better world, one rooted in regeneration and collaboration. So thank you all for your attention.